Hey guys, it's Robert from East Coast Sawing, back in the new workshop, and I just want to show you the completed flip top table for my jointer and sander. As I mentioned in previous video, the shop, while being much bigger than my old bus shop, is still pretty tiny. It's external dimensions are 10 by 18, so inside's 9.5 by 17.5, a little bit less. So I have four tools that kind of need to be in the middle of the room lengthwise. That would be my table saw, jointer, thickness sander, and thickness planer. And of course, I can't have all four of them in the center because then I'd have no room to work. So the compromise was to put the planer and sander on a flip top rolling cart, and the jointer will eventually get a set of wheels under it. And then I'll be able to move the jointer out of the way and put the sander in its place, or the planer. Mostly when I need to do bigger projects. So if I do stuff that are under 6 feet long, six feet long, I think is what I can get away with. I don't need to move the planer out of the way, or the jointer out of the way at all. I can just work in front of it and work right out the door. So it's always an option. So as you can see, it's nothing pretty, nothing fancy. My workshop is a working workshop. I don't need fancy $300 sheets of plywood products. So I made it mostly out of 2x4s or 2x3s that I milled from my own lumber stock. In a previous video, I showed you making the box joint jigs that hold the box joint cuts that hold the four corners on each of the end frames. That way I can kind of keep it open and have no plywood needed for rigidity. Oh, excuse me. On top you see is my thickness planer. It's not centered because I want all the weight on one side to counterbalance the turning motion. So how it works is there's two little toggles here. There's one on each side, and it works on both sides of the table. So when the planer's facing upwards, the table's lower, so this just slides on the top, and it prevents the table from going in this direction. And when it's the other way around, it goes on this side, the top side of the table, and prevents it from turning the other way. Or on the bottom side, so it prevents it turning the other way. So I'll do a quick flip to show you. So I just fold up my outfeed table on my jointer. As long as the jointer set it at least 3 inches high, I don't need to take the table off. So just roll it around. So right here on each side, there's another 2x3 that is the end stop. This is a fixed stop, so this thing only turns in this direction I'm showing you. And I just had to, they're short enough that the table's clear. Sometimes I have to just make sure they're fully tucked in when it comes around. So now the planer side is resting on these stops, and the flipped stops now go this way, and that prevents it from pushing down on this side, causing a rollover. My thickness sander is a little less than 24 inches front to back, but it's like 3 feet going from side to side once you factor in the width of the motor. So that's why it's mounted in the orientation it is. Planer wasn't nearly as fussy, but for consistency's sake. So I'll bring these in a little closer. So you can see the box joints right here that form up the frame. So this whole outer edge frame is all done in box joints. Then the two stretchers that run side to side are 2 layers done with lap joints. So it actually forms a bridle joint. It's very strong, but it's not quite rack proof. So in the corners, I have these little pieces of 2x3 that are half lapped on each side. They're screwed and glued. Everything's screwed and glued in this except these box joints. They're just glued. So it's incredibly rigid and strong. It is very rack proof. For the axle, I'm just using a piece of 3/4 steel pipe. It's actually a 36-inch piece of bar pipe clamp pipe. Some surplus I got from a sale. So I'll get his underneath the table and you can kind of see the action from the underside. Alright guys, so you can see the flip stop right here. So it's just a little thicker than 1 inch on a screw for a pivot, and it's just more of a safety catch than anything. It doesn't hold a lot of weight. You can see the pipe sitting in its cradle. So the outside diameter of 3/4 pipe is 1 inch. So I took a 1 inch circle and marked a half moon and then brought it out. And then I just cut it with the bandsaw. And then this one is sanded beyond that. The two outside ones are the pivots, and the two on the table itself are the ones for that are fixed to the axle. So the axle actually spins with the tables. The top, I didn't mention, is actually made from my first table saw. In my bus shop, before I got the rigid, I had a table saw made from a handheld, and it's 2 layers of 1/2 inch spruce plywood. So I just cut that up and used my tops because it's already 1 inch thick. It's bonded, it's quite firm. So do a flip from the bottom side perspective. When the planer's on the bottom, it's actually easier to flip it because there's lifting handles on the planer to grab. So you can see it, not that difficult even with the weight of these two sanders. They're the sander and the planer. They're about 100 pounds a piece. You can see why I had to make the flip top so tall. The planer isn't very tall, and once the top's tucked down, if I had to, I could tuck the top all the way down and take the in-feed out-feed table off, and it'd only be 12 inches high. The problem is the thickness sander, the crank handle comes down so low once it's in the folded position. So I didn't have too many options there, so I just had made it a little bit thicker. So guys, I hope you liked the video. Give you some ideas for your own thickness planer, or your own flip top stand. I'm not giving any real measurements and part numbers and stuff like that for this, but I can give you the overall dimensions. It's 26 inches wide. The frame is 31.5 tall, and it's 32 front to back. So that's my overall dimensions for a DW735 and pretty much any 1632 thickness sander. If you have in-feed, out-feed tables on your thickness sanders, may not work. But if you have a thickness sander with that price point, you may not be in a small shop either. So there is that. So hope you find the video great, guys. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks, guys.